Yay Networks.
Changing our habits, changing our behaviors, it almost never feels easy. It feels really sticky a lot of times. And if you're doing the Alcohol Free for 40 challenge, or you're listening to this at any other time and you've chosen to give up alcohol for whatever reason, for whatever length of time, that can feel really hard. And one of the biggest things that we encourage is, what are our replacement behaviors going to be? And a lot of times the replacement behaviors around not drinking comes to, well, what are those replacement beverages? What are we going to be drinking instead of alcohol during this window that we're choosing not to drink? And that's what this episode is all about. I'm joined by two experts who are going to share insight and inspiration on how to successfully navigate this zero-proof world. A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us. I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about. Consider this episode your Alcohol Free for 40 toolkit, and some may say Alcohol Free for 40 survival guide for going what's essentially 6 weeks completely alcohol free. And if you're giving up alcohol for this challenge, or really any time throughout the year, in this episode, we're going to be covering the strategies, the tools, the resources, everything you need to truly support your success from every angle. And the thing is, giving up alcohol doesn't have to feel restrictive. And instead of thinking about I'm giving up, I'm air quoting giving up alcohol, instead kind of flipping it and exploring this fast growing world of zero proof options. Also getting creative with, doesn't even have to be any of these fancy zero proof spirits that you're seeing on shelves. It can mean getting creative with your regular drinks, the flavored sparkling water, kombucha, all this kind of stuff. So in this episode, we're going to talk about how to keep things interesting while also going alcohol free. We'll be keeping it eat fit, of course, how to keep sugars in check. And it's not just me that you're going to be hearing this from. The expertise is actually going to come very little from me, and instead by two of the favorite people I have who have joined me to share their expertise that we can all learn from their experience, their expertise in this space. I am here with Melanie Warner Spencer and Ethan Skaggs. Welcome, y'all.
Hi, thanks, Molly.
Hey, Molly. Thank you so much for having us. Pleasure to be here.
So we'll talk about each of you in a minute. But first, I want to share with our listeners why it's the three of us specifically, like why we're pulling together the three of us to help guide our listeners through this, navigate this zero proof world. So big news, y'all. We actually have a book coming out. It is called The Craft Eat Fit Guide to Zero Proof Cocktails. And the three of us, Melanie, Ethan, and I, collaborated to create this book. So we're going to share more about how this came around, the idea came around, what we learned in the process. We'll be sharing all of this with you. And before I forget to, we're excited that you can pre-order the book now, and it's 20% off. And you use the promo code AFF40, and I'll put all of that in the episode notes. So exciting stuff. So we're basically, we learned a lot. We learned so much through pulling that book together. And so let's start with Melanie. If you can share with us your experiences and also your expertise, both as a writer and also in the zero proof world.
Happily, I am a lifestyle editor and I oversee 4 magazines. One is a statewide magazine in Louisiana and the others are regional and local to New Orleans. And as a lifestyle magazine editor, I spend a lot of time, particularly pre-pandemic, at events that include alcohol, and that might be something that's a morning event, an afternoon event, an evening event, any day of the week, all year long. It's kind of crazy how much alcohol is present in my world of journalism. And I did quite a few non-drinking challenges over the years, particularly Alcohol Free for 40.
Was that your first that you did?
That was the first time I had given up alcohol for Lent. Yes, ever in 2000.
It was 16. It was our first ever Alcohol Free for 40 event.
Yes.
You came through.
I did. And I blogged about it. And as we've talked about in prior podcasts about Alcohol Free for 40, I actually continued to drink after that, just as I normally did, which I would say, if I'm being honest, I'm probably anywhere from moderate to heavy drinker when I am drinking. And so, again, lots of events and then just happy hours and dinners and you name it. Pretty normal, I think, to New Orleanians, of course, and also to my family, frankly, growing up in Kentucky. So then the second time I did it was a few years later, and that was 2020. And I ended up moderating a little bit after that. And then in July, I did dry July, and I gave it up completely and haven't drank since then. So I've been alcohol-free since July of 2020.
So as this is airing, we're coming up, it's more than a year and a half, coming up on 2 years.
And I also started a website and social media entity called Drink Fit Club that navigates challenges, helps people motivate to navigate challenges, and gives them ideas and tips and lots of fun recipes and resources for where to buy non-alcoholic beverages or zero-proof beverages, and really just talks about how alcohol affects us and how good it is to give your body a break every once in a while.
And what I like about the Drink Fit Club is, whereas the Alcohol Free for 40 challenge is sort of this annual, 40 days, let's kind of put this focus in and giving up alcohol, the Drink Fit Club sort of picks up after that someone has this resource year round. And you share research, you share the latest studies, the latest articles, just all types of information for people. And of course, just in the spirit, as Melanie always is, you keep it fun. You bring the fun to it. It's not heavy. And sometimes you'll have things that you'll share that are heavy.
Right. And I think there's a balance, because obviously I love encouraging people to take alcohol-free breaks, but I also am realistic in knowing that some people don't think it's going to be fun and they just don't want to do it, or they've never gone alcohol-free.
It's scary.
And there are just so many different circumstances for why people would want to or not want to. And I try to keep judgment out of it. And just as a journalist, obviously, I want to present factual information. So if I'm talking about something difficult, like it can cause 10 different kinds of cancer, and there is a lot more research now about that particular subject, then I present that as it is. Here's what the research is. Obviously, this is some hard stuff. We just want you to be informed, because then you can make better decisions for your health and for yourself. So I think that mixed in a little bit here and there with the fun recipes and any kind of more lifestyle fodder. And sometimes my cat, Mr. Percy, who's our chief nap officer at Drink Fit Club, encouraging people to rest. I mix it up. And I think that the reason a lot of people who do continue to drink and may take a break every once in a while don't get put off by it is because I keep it light, even when I have to present something that's difficult.
Melanie is, I think, possibly the most frequent guest I've ever had on the podcast. We were talking about it just before we started this for y'all. This is at least your fourth, if not your fifth time with me.
I think so. And we're losing track. So I think
that's a good thing. So the first time Melanie joined me, it was maybe 2020 or 2021. And it was sort of like how it was in the middle of the Alcohol Free for 40 challenge. And it was sort of like how you're bringing the party. I think it was right before COVID.
It was?
Yes, because we were in person,
right,
without a mask, and it was you and your colleague Ashley, and it was talking about how you because that was pre-COVID, and again, as editors and lifestyle editors, what you were just saying earlier, it's such a social lifestyle, and how y'all were making this successful with the Alcohol Free for 40 with that. And we also had Melanie in for Spirited Holidays, talking about all types of different spirits and things like that, and kind of making it fun during celebrations. And then we did a flip the script where Melanie interviewed me about kind of the nutritional and wellness benefits of going alcohol free. And in that, we talk about some of the things that she was just starting to mention, some of that, the hard facts and the science that, we may not like what the information is, but it is the facts there. So I'm going to link to all of Melanie's past podcasts with me because there's just so much there, and we'll be talking about different stuff here. But if there's more that you want to hear, you can scroll back through that, or I'll just have the links for y'all in the episode notes. So Ethan, with you, let's talk the same. Like your experiences, your expertise is very far reaching, I might say.
Oh, thank you very much, Molly. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to sit down with you and Melanie. Obviously very excited about the book and the time that we got to spend together to create it. And I think that its reaches will be, it'll be far reaching and really beneficial to so many people that are on this journey or wanting to start, experimenting with even just taking a break with alcohol. As Melanie mentioned, being a New Orleanian, we do have our moments of gluttony and love to imbibe here and there. So, but I currently work for Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. I've been on the distribution side of alcohol for almost a year now. And prior to that, I was actually an Eat Fit partner with you and your amazing team at the restaurant Gregory, which I was able to open with Eric Cook in 2018. And before that as well at Commander's Palace. Prior to joining the distribution side, however, though, I was working in this sort of bar chef space for nearly a decade prior. So coming up with all the recipes and also being introduced to this world through your Eat Fit program has been really inspiring. And then now to be able to work on this project too, and create recipes and think about the ways that we imbibe and enjoy alcohol or no alcohol is really great for me.
And that's really where our paths crossed, was during your work with the restaurants, with Commanders, and then especially Gregory, that, we have Eat Fit cocktails. And then during especially Alcohol Free for 40, we have Eat Fit zero proof cocktails. Had somebody today that said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have mocktails at this event coming up," at a whole different thing with Ocean Fitness. And I said, "Yes, however, we don't call them mocktails.
We're retiring the phrase."
We're retiring the phrase. And so she's like, "Well, no booze. You know what I mean?" I was like, "Right, but you got to." It's one of those things that I think we all experience, that people sort of eye roll about it. It feels dated. And a lot of times mocktails also are kind of synonymous with the sugary,
fruity, sugary, overly sweet, maybe a kiddie cocktail.
Right.
Absolutely. Or not even for adults.
Right. Yes.
So the zero proof cocktail sort of has all of those elements of something that's elevated, it's sophisticated, and it's zero proof, meaning it doesn't have alcohol. So as Ethan and I were working on, okay, what is Gregory going to offer just on their menu that's an Eat Fit cocktail, and throughout last year's Alcohol Free for 40 challenge, what's going to be on the menu that's going to be Eat Fit zero proof, he had these really cool drinks that were just beautiful and strange and innovative and strange in the best of ways. And I was like, wow, this is like magic. What are these ingredients that are in here? And it was just really cool. And so one evening, it was actually the very first evening of Alcohol Free for 40 last year, we were doing a demo, and we were doing a live demo, of course, by Zoom, because it was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a demo by Zoom, and we had, kind of a virtual recipe demo, and Ethan's explaining the different types of zero proof ingredients and how to make these fun, innovative zero proof cocktails. And, people are getting questions, and they're all excited because it's day one, and they're like, this is fun. This is, and at the end of this, and Ethan and I are putting away the cameras and the Zoom and the computer and packing everything up, Ethan looks at me and says, "So have you ever thought about doing a book of Eat Fit zero proof cocktails?" And I remember that moment. It's day one of Alcohol Free for 40, which, y'all, it's there's almost, over 500 people around the state who are coming through, and they're doing all these labs and testing all in a day. And it's mayhem on that day. It's your brain is just all mixed up.
Not the most convenient day to pose a huge question to Molly.
But I remember, so that's where my brain space was. And I remember you said that to me, and there was probably a 10-second window, and I just stared at you, and I just looked. I looked at you, and I won't do it now because it'd be awkward silence. And I just was thinking and processing. I thought, I haven't thought of this, but I think I really like this, And then I was like, well, let's look into it. I was like, no, I hadn't thought of it. But then immediately I was like, I think I really love this idea. So we then went to our publisher, who is the now has, kind of enveloped the publisher that we did our Eat Fit cookbook with, which was River Road Press, and they're now part of Pelican Publishing. Went to Pelican and said, what do you think? And it's kind of one of those things like, how do you feel about this space? Because it is something that isn't the norm. And the publisher said, we love this idea. And I think what Ethan, was it maybe like you and I had that conversation in like February. I think I brought it to the publisher in March. There was a little bit of just conversation back and forth, and it may have been like late April. And they said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, late April. And then things happened really quickly after that.
The original deadline was going to be July.
Yeah, it was like July 17th. And we're like, oh, so we haven't started writing it yet.
Can we have till August? like that one extra month gave
Right.
us extra. So that was really, truly how it came to be. And like anyone who knows me knows that like that what if is like my favorite thing. And like, hey, what if we, and Ethan, I think had no idea what he was getting into.
Not at first, no, but I think it really, at least personally for me, like growing so much through this opportunity to work alongside you both has really opened my eyes to, I've never been alcohol free, as Melanie said too. I'm moderate to heavy drinker most of the time. I mean, I sell wine and spirits for a living, and to actually open my eyes and have this opportunity to not only reach people who are searching for these solutions, but also people that maybe are like me that never knew that these solutions existed.
But you're brilliant in the way that you can craft these. So where we started with that, we'll talk a little bit more about craft because it's exciting for us, of course. And then we'll also kind of use that and from what we learned with this and what we also learned that was successful. Because there's a lot that's out there that's zero proof, but then like that's not necessarily the things that are going to be like crowd pleasers. Let's talk about NutriBullet, our sponsor for this week's episode. We have had our NutriBullet for years. We love it. We use it pretty much every single day. And if you're not familiar, NutriBullet is the easy to use, easy to clean blender. Their signature blending transforms fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds into these silky, nutrient-dense smoothies. We recently tried NutriBullet's blender combo for the first time. And y'all, it is just like wildly powerful in the best of ways. It has everything that we know and love about the NutriBullet, plus this performance and capacity that you expect from a full-size blender. You can do refreshing smoothies and protein shakes, even savory soups and dips. The NutriBullet does it all. And the NutriBullet blender combo has 1,200 watts of power, which is clearly a lot of power because literally anything that's around that's lightweight, papers or anything like that, they sort of blow around a little bit when you're using this. The power, though, makes it effortless to blend a wide range of fiber-rich produce. Go to NutriBullet.com and use promo code FUELED for 20% off your order. Once again, that's NutriBullet.com. Use promo code FUELED for 20% off. What we first did is we went, because the Eat Fit cookbook, the food-based Eat Fit cookbook is based on dishes that are served at Eat Fit restaurants around the state. And so we did the same thing at first with craft. We went to all of our restaurants and we said, hey, send us your best and most, impactful zero proof cocktails. And we got so many soda with a splash of.
The spritzers.
And
spritzers.
This is one of the things that I cover on Drink Fit Club is when I do find a great cocktail, zero proof cocktail at a restaurant or a bar, I shout it from the rooftops on the channels because it isn't so ubiquitous that it's always a hit. Every once in a while I'll get one that I'll think, this is really just soda with a splash of. But then other times it's elevated. They've put thought into it. It's really well balanced. There are a lot of flavors happening. And I think that you obviously saw a little bit of that, which it's commendable. I'm glad when I see something on the menu that says, temperance cocktails, or they have cheeky names for it, or even if it just says mocktails, I really don't even care.
You're not going to judge.
No, I just,
Right.
No judgment.
I'm just thrilled that there's something for me that is different than just a soda or soda with bitters or whatever, which I do like. But it's nice to see those options. They just aren't always a home run.
I was talking with T. Martin the other day, co-proprietor of Commander's Palace, and she was telling me that one of their new, lead bartenders is really into the zero proof cocktail space, and she loves the creation of this. And T was sharing this with me because she's like, this is the first bartender that we've had who actually really just gets jazzed about it, just gets revved up about it. And so I think we're starting to see it shift, and we're starting to see those corners turn a little more. So as we're, back in 2021, which is only a year ago, but I think the momentum is picking up quickly of hopefully what restaurants are starting to offer and maybe what expectations are. But 2021, we reached out to our restaurants. What's your best zero proof cocktail? We get I thought I was like, Ethan, we can't make a book out of these.
We definitely did not have enough recipes to make a book out of it.
It was just like, what else are we going to add the splash and maybe change the garnish?
Right.
This can't be a book. So then
let's find new glassware.
Right.
Where's our glassware? Let's look at it.
So we changed our questions. So we went back to our restaurants and said, okay, start over. Give us your best, most impactful cocktail period. What has the biggest wow factor? What are people like making noises when it comes out, to their table? And then Ethan, this is where I say, like, you're truly like brilliant in your mindset of this. You look at each of these recipes and you're like, okay, here's how we're going to replace the spirit. Or sometimes with this, and we'll talk more about this, but we'll let you talk about that later. You would say, well, tell us how you would change it. You say all this.
Well, I think, similar to any kind of normal chef or even somebody that's tasting wine or able to speak intelligently about the flavors that they're able to taste, it all goes back to palate. And I think, not to say that my palate is the end all be all, because we had such a great team that's, able to taste these things alongside me and also make their own recommendations. But I think just having...
He's a super taster.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I think that because I started my career in spirits versus wine, and I'll explain this in a second, but when you're tasting spirits and are able to recognize nose, palate, finish on something that is so high in alcohol content, not only does that make tasting wine a lot easier because you're dealing with much lower levels. I'm talking about 40% and above, which would be any typical spirit in the United States, foolproof. When you've developed a palate that has discerning capabilities or qualities that allow you to get past such a high level of alcohol, I think that allows you to really nail down certain flavors and characteristics of a foolproof spirit that can then be replaced.
But with this on my end, what it kind of looked like was Ethan would see this recipe, and it was a recipe for this really like high-end cocktail from a restaurant that they'd submitted this recipe and a photo so we could kind of see what it looks like. And Ethan would dissect it, literally.
Oh, and this is also without even tasting it. So this is probably that's important to note too, because I wasn't at home drinking the foolproof spirit and then,
right.
up until 4 a.m.
We're going to all these restaurants around the state to taste it. Right.
No,
right.
This is actually just going through a recipe and developing my own for a solid 10 years nearly, which I still do. And that's probably my favorite part of my current job, because now instead of having one account, I have, 141 across the city that I'm responsible for and introducing zero proof cocktails and eat fit cocktails in every day. But no, you're exactly right.
So there's times where a drink may call for gin or vodka or tequila or something like that. And there's spirits, there's zero proof versions of most of those spirits. Mm-hmm. And then there's also distilled spirits that are sort of more like essences of botanicals, like the seed lip.
Yes, the seed lips. Yeah.
And so you would look at this drink and you would decide, okay, which type of spirit do I want to replace this spirit with? And then sometimes we ran into things that maybe it would be like an infused vodka. Mm-hmm. And so then you would think, okay, how are we going to change this? What's going to give these essences to this drink? And then also you're taking the sugar out.
Right. And I think that's the biggest issue we potentially had too, right? Where we weren't wanting the soda with a splash of, but how do we still get the volume of an 8 or 10 ounce cocktail without just saying, and top with soda water, Right. So it is a lot of creativity going into, purees and shrubs and things that we cover in our book.
Which brings us to that, the purees and shrubs. Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of the big picture of it. So yes. For us, it was fun. So Ethan reworked these drinks and he reworked them to be eat fit, zero proof. And as we were looking at this really tight timeline and it's Ethan and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. I feel like we need some cohesion here. And that's where Melanie came in. I was like, so Melanie, I know you're passionate with Drink Fit Club. I know you're passionate with doing the alcohol free for 40 challenge with us. What do you think?
I was so excited because a couple of books had come out around the time that we started talking about this. And one of them was Julia Bainbridge's Good Drinks. And it's this stunning book that it's similar in concept in terms of her traveling literally all over the United States and working with bartenders at famous bars and just beautiful restaurants and bars to develop drinks that are sophisticated, and to photograph them beautifully. And I thought to myself, okay, this is probably what it sounded like what you wanted to do. I mean, they're just good drinks. And that's what was so brilliant about her book. Now, ours takes it to another level because we're also omitting all of that sugar that you might normally get in either a cocktail or a zero proof cocktail. And also, I think because we're coming out of Louisiana, which is a hard drinking state, straight out of New Orleans, which is a hard drinking city. And we're turning this concept of boozing it up on its head. We're saying you can have this beautiful, delicious, well-balanced, sophisticated cocktail without any alcohol in it, and it doesn't have to be a sugary snack for a 9-year-old. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that, you know, her book and then others that have come out since then, they're contributing to this idea that we can go out, we can have a sophisticated drink in a restaurant or in a bar, not just at home, and it can be an elevated experience and not just I'm having a soda, but an actual culinary experience like what you're enjoying with your food. And the more that people like us are doing this sort of thing, the more of a movement it continues to become, and not just sort of a let's not drink movement, but a culinary movement, a movement within the craft cocktail world. And so to me, as a lifestyle editor, my, every bell was going off because I said, yes, let's do this. Obviously I have a personal interest in it, but I think that some of the best stories that come out of lifestyle, they do come from that personal question, that what if, or I am wondering about this thing that I heard about, let's explore it further. And so I was all in. I had no problem saying, yes, please let me help with this.
So Melanie sort of set up parameters. She
needed you.
She set our outline.
Melanie was our boss.
She was our boss. I was trying to say it nicely.
I did what all good editors do. I told the talent to calm down, that we can do this. And then I illustrated through the timeline that it was actually doable.
It felt really good.
It did.
I think that's the majority of what I do on any given day is just email about 50 freelancers and say, calm down, we can do this.
And we did. And then we should also talk about the photography. So our Eat Fit Monroe dietitian, Hope Fruget, has been, before she joined us, she had worked for a magazine in Nashville and had done food photography for that. And so she was just all in to do the photography of the book. And so she just did amazing.
Truly
job.
amazing.
It's beautiful.
It is some of the most gorgeous drinks I've seen photographs, hands down. And the fact that they're zero proof and under the guidelines and that we created them is truly amazing to me.
So Ethan styled the drinks. Hope photographed them. Savannah Latimer, of course, is our project manager. She's our Eat Fit Baton Rouge dietitian. We call her project manager, but she was like all aspects of assistance, editing recipes and all of that. We had several locations that we did the photo shoots at. One was in a beautiful space called the Cotton or the Eli in Monroe, which neither Ethan or we didn't get to be there for that shoot, but Hope did it. And then we did it at the Chloe here in New Orleans, Cavan here in New Orleans, and then our house.
Yeah.
And Hope was able to kind of work with it, and we had different sets. It doesn't look like my house in it.
No, it doesn't. Actually, all of the places, even though they are so different, the way that Hope was able to utilize her amazing eye in photography for texture, color, and also understanding what I think she knew we expected from the drinks and the photographs. And I mean, she's just truly incredible.
I'm just going to say it. It's sexy. It really is sexy. And it has atmosphere. It's everything you want from a cocktail book.
I sent the cover to our AVP of brand marketing with Oxnard, and I said, "Hey, what do you think of this before we send it to the publisher? Just getting your approval." And this, she's like, "Why are you doing a cocktail book?" I said, "No, like look a little closer. It's zero proof."
Wait a minute.
She's like, because the drinks were so beautiful, you know, and she just was looking at it. She sees craft. She's like, immediately thinks this is cocktails coming out of what we're doing. And I was like, no, it's zero proof. She's like, oh, closer look. All right.
Well, you also think that just goes back to people's initial reactions and expectations when they think of zero proof cocktails or mocktails or what have you, you know, is just boring, potentially, you know, not sexy, and just something that you've seen before.
If anyone who knows Hope, she's also one of the most just gracious human beings. She's so loving. She's so gracious. She's just, you know, has all the patience and just love coming out of her. And I feel like the photos like embody her spirit.
Yes, you can definitely see her creative eye in the photography.
Yes.
They have the special ingredient. Love.
It's true. It's
And
true.
hope.
And
hope.
love and hope.
Love that.
So with that, you can hear how excited we are about this. So y'all, the book is coming out in October. I've got the link so you can see it. We have some of the, you know, kind of sample copy inside of it, so you can see what the recipes look like. We actually have also bonus recipe that's not included in the book that when someone pre-orders it, you get it. And yeah, I will say this too. When I said that Ethan has a very diverse set of talents. So you graduated from UPenn with degrees in architecture and art history.
Yes.
So Ethan also did the photo editing for all of the book.
My first job out of college was working for Adobe Systems, so I was quite confident in our ability to match stylization and also, you know, do a little edits and post here and there where we needed them.
And it is magic. I know from looking at a lot of raw files from the photographers we work with at the magazines I oversee that you often, if you have great material, you will end up with a really great image in post-production, but there may need some, you know, there might be some work that needs to be done, a little or a lot. And that's, I think, one of the many things you brought to the table was obviously taking these really great images and just punching them up and making them consistent. I was snapping my fingers.
It was a good emphasis.
You brought that snap. But it just makes all the difference in the world, and again, brings it to that level of sophistication that we're trying to achieve, not just in the cocktails, but visually as well.
When we were thinking about the drinks, we Ethan categorized it, you know, classics, et cetera, of the different varieties, and so we have all different types of drinks. So any of the different kind of categories that you would look at. Then we also have some educational spreads, some of the kind of like DIY. So simple syrups. Let's talk about that because we mentioned that just briefly earlier. I think that's one of the hardest things for someone to do in a Eat Fit style cocktails, because no matter what, and sort of to Melanie's point, more and more books are coming out that are zero proof books, but a lot of them are zero proof cocktails that are still high in sugar. Or I see a lot of keto cocktails, but then they have alcohol in them. So the keto kind of craze there, but then so this is sort of both. Finding a way that you can do a simple syrup that you like is tremendous.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was so funny when we first started this project and having, you know, sugar alternative tasting at your house, Molly. I think it was really funny to see the stark contrast and some of the visceral reactions that a few of us had to a few of the alternative sugar or sweeteners rather. for example, I think you can probably talk a little bit better, obviously, about our alternatives here. But man, I don't think I'm ever going to purchase stevia in my life.
At least not for a
not
simple
for
syrup.
not for this application. Not for this application.
And so we walk you through this in the book Craft. But for our listeners here, we want you to know, we want you to listen to this and kind of be able to take away of how to create a simple syrup. So to Ethan's point, there's all these different sweeteners, and they go from, stevia and monk fruit, I think, are what people are familiar with. Oh, and they sound very approachable and friendly and all this stuff. And they are. They're natural, they're plant-based, but they're so intensely sweet. They're anywhere from 200 plus times sweeter than regular sugar. And so what that means is if you kind of touch a little bit to your tongue, it's so ragingly sweet. The monk fruit tastes like saccharin, like sweet and low to people.
That was when I think you were actually speaking about me wanting to run away after having
the visceral reactions. Yes.
Visceral reaction, because I intensely dislike sweet and low and a lot of those sweeteners out there that have that aftertaste, and I just can't deal with it. And so that was the sense that I was getting from that. And it was so intriguing to listen to you and Cole, who he's a bar owner here in New Orleans, and he also has a book out. And to listen to you two talk about those flavor profiles, it completely blew my mind, because you guys could describe the flavors. And we had a major panel of experts testing these different sweeteners. So if this book tells you to try a certain sweetener, just do it, because there were folks here that know far more than I do about flavors and combinations and the way things taste good or bad with, certain things. And the sweeteners, that was an education. There's so many out there, and we're really boiling it down here to where you don't have to do all that research and spend money on a bunch of sweeteners.
The monk fruit is interesting. There's one that's pre-made, and the brand is called Swoon. And you can buy it. I haven't really seen it in stores. I've mostly seen it online.
I think that they actually sell it here locally at Martin's Wine Cellar.
Oh, wow.
Which is actually
nice.
Interesting. But I have ordered it. I've actually used Swoon. So even though and I want to qualify this too, even though we speak about stevia and monk fruit, Swoon I have used actually in an Eat Fit Zero Proof cocktail.
And you enjoyed it.
And I enjoyed it. And there are applications obviously for those products as well.
It has a different taste. And so I think it matters. That's where someone like Ethan's knowledge comes in that says, this would be good with something with grapefruit or something with citrus.
Right.
Yeah.
Or knowing that bitter aftertaste could actually work in favor of a drink if you do it correctly.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I would say nothing's off the table. It just depends on what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
And don't try something and then think you tried one, you've tried them all. Because if you tried Swoon and you said, I don't like that as a simple syrup replacer, keep going because of the reasons we're talking about. So Swoon is pre-made. It's a monk fruit sweetened simple syrup. It does have that little bit of a bite of an aftertaste. But as Ethan said, and as Melanie just said, it can work in certain applications. Where we landed that we found worked best to create a simple syrup that actually more mimics a simple syrup that you would like a pre-made or whatever is two different sweeteners. One's called allulose, Allulose. It's a plant-based sweetener. The other is Swerve, which is also a plant-based sweetener. They are closer to a 1-to-1 ratio, actually slightly less sweet than sugar. And so we kind of determine the ratio. So with Swerve, half of a cup of Swerve to 1 cup of water. You literally just boil your water in a little small saucepan, add your half a cup of Swerve, stir it until it dissolves, let it cool. You've got your simple syrup. For allulose, it's more. It's a cup and a half of allulose. And that was when Melanie's talking about the tasting panel we had. We tried it with half a cup of allulose, 1 cup, 1.5 cups. And so then Ethan was kind of like, we're all, and we all tasted it. And when we landed on that one that had the higher concentration, we were like, this is it.
This was it. Yeah.
And so those are the two that we found that if you're going to make your own simple syrup, Swerve or allulose, and you can get granular allulose, work best. And so half a cup of Swerve to 1 cup of water, 1.5 cups of allulose to 1 cup of water. You would just heat it on your stove, and then you would put it into a like a ball type of a jar, a heat-proof glass jar if you're going to pour it in while it's still hot. While Ethan was talking, I ran into the kitchen and grabbed him out of the refrigerator. Ethan and I did a TV segment last week, so I happened to have a Swerve simple syrup that I made and an allulose simple syrup. What's interesting is the Swerve settles out when you put it into the fridge. And so I'm showing Ethan this. It's kind of got crystals on the bottom.
Yeah.
There's some sediment in the jar at the bottom of the jar that really looks a little unappetizing.
It looks like you can mine it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just heat it, and
it
it
goes back.
It goes back. Yeah. So that's the drawback of Swerve is if you're going to make it and use it right away, you're good. If you want to refrigerate it to use later, be aware that if you're using your Swerve and the simple syrup, you will have to heat it just a bit to get that to dissolve back into suspension. The allulose, though, this is the granular allulose, and it stayed completely in suspension, just like the day that we made it. So that's just something to kind of be aware of. If you don't see allulose in your store, you can find it online. Wholesome Sweetener also makes a liquid allulose, like an allulose syrup. Tell us your thoughts on that, Ethan. I loved it.
I loved it.
I love it.
It tastes like honey to me. It's just so delicious.
It has a honey, almost butterscotch kind of flavor. I've used that before. It is super easy to do. It is more readily available than I think the granular allulose from what I've seen. Granted, I'm the type of person that would prefer to make my own syrups, but I think that honestly that 1.5 to 1 ratio that we discussed is actually matching their pre-made, which is really what we wanted to do to provide that honestly closest 1-to-1 regular sugar experience.
The viscosity,
and the sweetness, everything, even with the application of, when we're developing these recipes and cocktails and saying, okay, half a tablespoon of regular sugar, how are we going to match this with the allulose? And that's really the ratio and what we came up with. And I believe in that product wholeheartedly. I have it on my shelf at home.
Yeah. And so if you're not one to make it and you are wanting something store-bought, the allulose syrup, ALLULOSE, it's by Wholesome Sweetener, their syrup. You can find that either in some stores or online. That's the one that Melanie was saying. It's sort of like a honey. It's like a mild honey. Ethan said like a butterscotch. The viscosity of that's like honey. Like it's a little thicker like that. The other is Swoon, which does have a little bit of that bite. And it just depends on your flavors. It depends on your taste preferences. My father-in-law he's a sweet and low guy. He was a Tab guy for years. So he loves the monk fruit simple syrup. I mean, I think he could just drink it and he'd be happy. And so it's just going to be preference, or you can make your own. So that we kind of went right into simple syrups because as you're looking at really I wouldn't say any, but I would say most traditional cocktails, a lot of them call for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're thinking of classic cocktails too, if there's not sweetness derived from potentially a vermouth or fortified wine or a spirit in itself, if you have caramel and a bourbon or even a sweetness in a gin from the botanicals or an Amaro, for example, you're going to have to add a little bit of simple syrup, at least to most cocktails. I mean, look at classics like the Old Fashioned. It's the #1 cocktail in the world. Obviously, that includes sugar, but you're also getting sugar from the fruit as well. If you look at a Cosmopolitan, it has triple sec. Margarita has sugar. Even if you're not actually adding sugar, you have sugar present in the cocktail.
So if you're looking at, for our listeners and they say, okay, I want to kind of rework my favorite cocktails. I think about this almost with that same formula. Like if you're going to take your favorite cookie and make it an Eat Fit cookie, okay, first let's use maybe coconut oil instead of butter. Let's use a plant-based sweetener instead of sugar. Like there's sort of you go down the list of things. So with drinks, you're looking at your favorite cocktail. Okay, well, let's use one of the simple syrups that we just talked about, the plant-based Eat Fit sweetened simple syrups. And then alcohol, how you would switch this out.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, completely vital to changing or adapting any recipe, right? Because you're not going to go in and say, well, let's just change every 5 ingredients, sort of like keeping your experiment really controlled. So you want to make those substitutions incrementally. And I think that's vital. And you really should start with the sugars whenever you're looking to adapt your favorite, because that's going to be probably why it's your favorite because of your brain's chemical reaction to the sugar.
Dopamine.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're getting the double hit because it has alcohol,
and the alcohol,
which is a dopamine rush unlike anything else on the planet. And then you have sugar in addition to that, which also gives a pretty artificial dopamine rush that we don't normally get in our regular dopamine production that happens naturally in our brains. So it's, I think, we all kind of have that reaction, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
It's that hit.
Yeah, it really is. It is.
So knowing that, looking at the spirit and knowing that there's essentially a zero proof option for pretty much every mainstream spirit. I'd say there's different liqueurs, obviously, that there's not. But if it's your straight up mainstream spirit.
Oh yeah, rum, vodka, gin, tequila, gin. Oh, I'm sorry, rum, vodka, whiskey, tequila, gin. There's, those base 5 are really going to exist anywhere. And then of course we have the neutral spirits that have a more of a botanical feel, like the seed lip that we really love and enjoy.
And the word that we're saying there, y'all, is seed lip, SEEDLIP.
Yes.
We're kind of saying it quickly. And if I was like,
it's all one word, the way it's presented through the brand. But it's seed and lip.
An amazing story and update to you, Melanie. I told Molly this last week, but my company actually is now distributing Seedlip, which is super exciting.
I actually have a friend here locally that works for a branch of the company, and she has been very active in getting the word out there that Seedlip is available in New Orleans. And it's very exciting to me, as Ethan pointed out, because I saw it on a couple of menus over the past few years, and it's at I think maybe 2 to 3 restaurants over the past few years. And now I'm starting to see it pop up because of your all's efforts. Thank you so much. And Seedlip is one of those that just took off like a rocket because, again, people want this type of distilled non-alcoholic spirit that has a lot of complex layers of flavor, and it enables you to put that into a drink without having to put a bajillion different ingredients in it if you're feeling lazy, or to layer it in with other ingredients. So it's not trying to be something else. It's not trying to be gin. It's not trying to be tequila. It's its own thing. And it's such a great addition to that space that we're seeing grow and grow over the past couple years, particularly since the pandemic, and a lot of people realized they were over drinking during the pandemic, and they're ready.
I don't know what you're talking about. Why'd you look at me when you said that?
It wasn't you in particular. Ethan represents everyone. And with the zero proof spirits and the wines and the beers, not all of them are created equally in terms of the flavors and how well they mimic the real thing, and in terms of the sugar and the calories. So I appreciated that with this book, we all had to look at all of those factors, because if you ask me, how can we make a non-alcoholic Aperol Spritz? I know exactly which thing I'm going to pick. But then we talked to Molly, and she says, well, this has a lot of sugar. Or
there was one that had the red dye.
Yeah,
or red
exactly.
dye.
Red dye or added caramel, so we have to, and those were things that we just assumed, at least I assumed too. And then we're looking at the bottles and like, man, this really doesn't work out. And those are some last minute changes that even we discovered.
Right. You can't just assume because it's zero proof that.
Right.
And, most of the spirits I find are low in sugar.
Or have no sugar or no calories.
Right.
Which is, it continues to blow my mind.
It's amazing, really.
I just can't wrap my head around it.
Like, how's all this flavor happening? There was one, it was the whiskey, I think, that we didn't love any of them on their own. Is it, it's whiskey and bourbon.
Ritual,
it's the whole thing that like not every bourbon is a whiskey, but every whiskey is a bourbon. Am I right about that? Whiskey is a type of
vice
bourbon.
versa.
Yeah.
Bourbon's a type of whiskey.
Well, it's so funny. It's people have changed and blurred those lines.
I was going to say that has changed a lot just over the past few years, because I'm a native Kentuckian. And if you had asked me 5 years ago, even if a bourbon, I'm going to say it the way it is, but a bourbon made in Texas, which was one of the first ones that came onto my radar, I would have said that's not bourbon immediately.
Because it's made in Texas.
Right.
And
bourbon had to be made in...
It had to be made in Bourbon County, Kentucky, period. Like as a
like
you
champagne.
think like the limestone, all the environmental factors, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so now I think some people who were making bourbon would actually send it to Kentucky to Bourbon County, Kentucky for some of the process, because that way they could say it was a bourbon and appease people like me who were being little brats about it. But it's really changing. And I know you'll still find some people out there who are not accepting of it, but I don't think that's really the case as much anymore. That said, there is a non-alcoholic bourbon that I got very excited about because it was developed by some women in Kentucky, in Louisville, in the Louisville area. And I couldn't get my hands on it fast enough because I thought, okay, it's being made by Kentuckians. It's being made by women. I got to try this thing. And it's Kentucky 74. And so that was the one that really, they nailed that flavor profile. To me, it tastes like a really kind of light bourbon, if you will.
I agree.
They made it to be used in mixed drinks. So if you're drinking it straight, it's going to feel like it's missing something probably. But and I hope that the makers of these products don't shoot us, but we discovered that if you mix Ritual and Kentucky 74, you get the burn of the bourbon from the Ritual, and you get the flavor profile that we all love from the Kentucky 74. I hope no one comes to beat down my door.
Nobody's going to. It's just feedback. We missed the burn. Like, we loved the flavor of the Kentucky 74, but we missed the burn. And then we had the burn of that with the Ritual, but we didn't have all the complexity of the flavors. So we were like, okay, let's do these, halvesies with it. And that's one of the other tips that we have in the book. So tips like that all the way through it that says, okay, we've done some of the legwork for you. Here's your deal in simple syrup. Here's your deal in finding your whiskey / bourbon that you would like. What if someone is not so much a cocktail person, but they are more a wine person or a beer person?
Well, I have lower standards than Ethan.
No.
But I will say, again, it was a learning process because I was always happy with an inexpensive bottle of Pinot Grigio and call it a day. I know the difference between fine champagne and inexpensive sparkling and just didn't care. But over the years, I have been able to discern when I'm having something that's better than something that's not. But with the zero proof stuff, for many, many years, it was just awful. And
wine, you mean?
The wine was terrible. There just wasn't anything out there that I had any interest in. And I tried whatever I could get my hands on, and there just wasn't a lot available, and what was there wasn't great. That said, that is totally different now.
Even in just the past 2 years.
In the past 2 years, from the time I did the challenge in 2016 to the time I did it in 2020, it was a completely different planet where the non-alcoholic wine or de-alcoholized wine is, I think, the more acceptable term. That's the process they're using. And that is a completely different world. And there's so much out there, particularly if you're willing to order it online, that it will change your mind about these products. So for me, I was glad to get Ethan's wine palette on a lot of the ones that had either come on my radar that I had tried or that I hadn't yet tried, and that we got to try together. And one of them was Ariel, which is a brand that you can find on a pretty large scale at supermarkets, at liquor stores, at a lot of different places, frankly. That one's, I think they have it at Whole Foods sometimes, just talking on a national level, and Winn-Dixie, which has a lot of stores on the national level as well. So experiment, but a lot of the supermarkets are starting to carry more of this stuff. St. Regis has some sparklings out there that are pretty decent. Freixenet actually has a sparkling that's pretty good. And there's so many different brands that I'm still experimenting because there's a lot out there that I haven't tried yet. But some of my favorites are readily available in your supermarket aisles, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that we've seen this space grow so much. And even though it has always been on my radar, it hasn't been at the forefront of like me creating these cocktail menus. But I do love when we were able to try the wines together because I've worked in this space and been able to have the opportunity to learn the true expressions of the grapes and the winemakers, and really trying to understand, the impact of these processes on the wine, the de-alcoholization, as Melanie mentioned. These wines, and actually most of the spirits too, are actually created as foolproof spirits or foolproof wines. And then typically they use a centrifuge, from what I understand, to then separate out the alcohol, or a process of redistillation almost, with the heating and cooling elements. That being said, though, I think we have the best of the best available now. And I can't honestly wait for more products like Seedlip to come out. I would love to see some Amaros, some Aperol and Campari, substitutes that don't need the red dye for us to enjoy.
Now, I will say, anyone who decides to explore with either the zero proof spirits or the de-alcoholized wines, or even the many wonderful national and craft non-alcoholic beers that are out there, there is a tendency for them to be a more mellow version of what you used to. And I use the word mellow. I do think that it's just not as, it's complex, but I guess mellow is just the best way to describe. It's not going to hit you in the face. Obviously the spirits don't have a lot of that burn and that bite. But the wines are a sort of lighter version. The beers are sometimes a sort of lighter version. I do think beer is a little farther ahead.
I do too.
And I know you recently interviewed some folks from one of the breweries that is really making major strides, the folks that own Surreal Brewing. But the beer is just leaps and bounds ahead of where it used to be. And I frankly never had a problem with O'Doul's. They're like the original near beer. Yeah.
How about you?
Wow, judgment.
I know, judgment.
No, I had a major problem.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the Heineken.
I will say that O'Doul's Amber actually is far superior to the old school.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have
most
to
of us are familiar with.
revisit that.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, the beers, the non-alcoholic beers, are so high in sugar. And so you mentioned the Heineken 0.0. That's one that's really low. The Surreal Brewing, I'll link to the interview that I did with the founders of it. I love every one of their brews. They're, to me, like, they have the different hoppy ones. They've just got these IPAs. They've got all these different flavors that I actually like the flavor of it. And from a sugar standpoint, they're very low, no, or very low sugar. And the calories are like 15, 17, 25. And it's like, well, that's just not a big commitment.
It's amazing what they've been able to accomplish with
all the
company.
flavor. Yeah. And then, Melanie, you have a couple of favorites of the beers that y'all have.
I keep Athletic in stock at all times at my house. That one, they have a couple of different flavors. I'm sorry, craft beer people. That I want all the time. The Cerveza Athletica is one of the ones that I keep in the house.
The Cerveza is incredible.
The Cerveza is just so good, very flavorful. I keep actually, believe it or not, the Heineken 0 on tap. Not on tap.
Melanie's got the Heineken 0.0 keg in the backyard.
Heineken 0.0. My husband bogarts that one a lot from me, and he still drinks. He loves his beer. He's a PBR man at heart, but he also really enjoys craft beer from the breweries all over the state.
What I like about something like Heineken 0.0, I'm seeing them sort of like we were saying with Ethan and having the distribution available of Seedlip. Heineken, the distribution is there.
It's
so
everywhere.
Just like your dive bar will often now have Heineken 0.0. And when someone has it in like a drink koozie, you can't tell. And so it makes it very easy for someone to kind of like assimilate and not feel like they're having to do anything different.
Well, for example, we're currently, by the time this airs, we won't be in Mardi Gras anymore, obviously, because everyone will be giving up alcohol for Lent. But, I was out on the parade route the other day and I had a couple of Busch non-alcoholic beers. It looks exactly like the real stuff. It's just a little lower down. It says NA.
Yeah.
Your hand's on that, or it's in a koozie.
Right.
Literally no one knew that I wasn't drinking alcohol. I act just as ridiculous with it as I do without it. So, you can't tell. if that's something that you're wanting to do, if you want to fly under the radar a little bit for whatever reason, you can do that because they have great branding and packaging. It looks just like a craft beer or just like a Budweiser. You know, Bud has its Budweiser Zero now. And the ones that are coming from these national guys like Budweiser, Busch, they taste exactly like their counterpart that they're named after. I would urge you to take a taste test because I doubt you could tell the difference.
Same.
So if someone's last attempt at a non-alcoholic beer has been O'Doul's, you heard Ethan and I's reaction, then try it again, or try the O'Doul's Amber, or try any of these others. The athletic beer that Melanie's talking about, the Surreal that I'm a big fan of. And so when you're talking about just big picture strategies, like how are you going to make the alcohol-free for 40 challenge work for you? One big thing I would say is like identifying these like triggers and like what I call the witching hours is what are the people, places, things that are sort of like that put you on autopilot where you're just going to pour that drink without even thinking. And so identifying what that is, and then what are the replacement behaviors that you're going to do instead? And what are the replacement behaviors, but also what are the replacement drinks? And so that's sort of why we jump straight into that. So if you're a cocktail person, here's some solutions. Here's how to get the sugary simple syrup salad or the spirits, flipping those. Wine, there's options. The beer, there's options. But thinking through when are those rough patches for you? For a lot of people, it's right when they walk in the home after work. If you're working from home, that transition, those lines get blurred a little bit, and it can just be really easy to pour a glass of whatever it is. And so thinking, what am I going to do instead? Y'all know I love a walk and talk.
Oh, yeah.
I've been on a walk and talk with Molly.
Yes.
We all have.
I love it. And so that's something that, what are you going to do that's filling that space where you used to have that cocktail? And what are you going to do? What are you going to drink instead? I remember we had, it was one of our first, maybe it was the first actual in-person event for Alcohol Free for 40 that we did. So it was the second year that we did it. And there was we call him our 83-year-old Scotch drinker. And he was there, and Brad, my husband, was talking to him, and he drinks, I think he went through like a handle of Scotch a week or something. I mean, it was a lot. Mm-hmm. And later into the challenge, he actually thought, this is my favorite story, one of them, they thought their ice maker was broken. It was overflowing because he wasn't using the ice for a Scotch. And so as Brad, my husband, is talking with them, and he's sharing this, and he's sharing these never tried to give up alcohol before. And Brad's like, what are you going to do instead? And he said, well, water. And Brad said, because that's
good luck with that.
That's a hard switch. And so we happen
I call it the sad water.
Yeah. It feels like the reverse. It's like nothing. It's like
deprivation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, obviously we all need water. I'm not saying don't drink
water.
But it feels like deprivation when everyone, especially if everyone around you has a lovely cocktail in a beautiful glass or this, gorgeous glass of wine, and you're there with your sad water.
It's not a viable substitute for habitual behavior.
Right. When this man has been drinking a lot of Scotch, which has that robust flavor, and we happen to have Big Easy Bucha on site at that event. Brad walks him over to the table. He tries it. He loves it. So throughout the challenge, he would go to different stores and try different brands and different flavors, and he would report back. And he stayed alcohol free the entire challenge.
That's amazing.
Loved it. Yeah. So it's finding what is that replacement behavior, that replacement drink going to be. If you're like, okay, all of this is great, but at the end of the day, I'm going to probably just take a flavored sparkling fill in the blank water or a kombucha. At least consider your glassware.
Yes, absolutely. That is something that you and I have talked about extensively, and I know Ethan is on board with it because you guys sourced some of the most gorgeous glasses I've ever seen for the book.
Do you want to give a shout out of where those are from?
Yeah, please do.
So my friend Jeffrey Clark, he also happens to be our hairdresser for decades, is in the vintage glassware business.
Amazing. Truly amazing. I've purchased some glassware from him as well.
When you went to pick out the glasses for the cookbook, you were there for hours.
Yeah, probably about 4.5 hours. I was just going to pop in and see, and then I realized the vastness of his collection, and just truly amazing, and got to speaking with him about history of glassware. And I mean, we could nerd out about it for hours, but we'll save that for the next podcast.
So Jeffrey Clark, I'll ask him if there's something I can link to on our site, because they're fantastic for gifts also.
Yes.
Then you can buy, they're just all different price points. So yes, but it doesn't have to be Jeffrey Clark's fancy glassware that you're getting, although I love ours. But it can, it can just be taking that kombucha and pouring it into a champagne flute or whatever.
It's really so much about the sensory experience. And you could have all the flavor in the world, but if it's being served in a pint glass or a drinking glass, there's something that's sort of missing for me, definitely, but I know for a lot of people too. And it's not just the visual or the feel of it in your hand. It also has to do with that ritual. And I think a lot of us, it becomes habitual because of the ritual. And you get into this mindset of, I come home from work. A lot of us are talking about that after work drink. You come home from work, you pour the lovely wine or, the scotch in this very specific type of glass for that specific type of drink. And it might be a special glass to you. That glass might have some memories for you. Maybe you bought it on vacation or got it at your favorite vintage store. And all of it adds up to this experience that you're creating each day for yourself. It's a little gift. And it can still be that gift, even if the thing you're drinking out of that receptacle isn't an alcoholic beverage. But put the garnish on it, put it in the pretty fancy glass, make it an experience, because that really takes a lot of the deprivation, if not all of the deprivation feeling out of it. It's perspective. Absolutely.
And I would argue that's even more of a gift to yourself than pouring the alcohol.
So like we said in the beginning,
don't tell my
too,
company.
Yes.
and we were saying earlier that instead of, referring to it as I'm giving up alcohol, flipping it and saying I'm exploring these other zero proof options. Any last words of advice or anything else to share with our listeners of their toolkit and or survival guides, some may call it, to get them through this 40-day challenge?
I would say if you are going to a gathering, bring your own drinks that you're going to enjoy, because inevitably, and there are a few hosts and hostesses out there that nail it and they have something there and something special for their non-drinkers. But often if you hang out with a lot of heavy drinkers or, somebody's off their game, they may forget to bring something. So just bring your drinks with you and enjoy them during the event so that you're not there with your side water. And then also try to match your favorite flavor profile with the flavor profile of the thing that you're bringing. So if you normally like to have an Aperol or something that has a little bit of that bitter flavor to it, try to find something that also has that bitter flavor. So you could go as simple as cranberry with a splash of soda, or you could bring a little pre-batch cocktail, or you could get something like Mockley, which is a local company that makes a few different non-alcoholic beverages in cans. There are options out there, so just experiment, but try to match your flavor profiles, because I think, for me anyway, that helped a lot, because again, then I didn't feel like I was missing something. I was still getting something that I normally would have had.
Addressing it just like if you were changing your diet and you're going to a party, you might offer to bring a dish so you knew you had something to fall back on.
Yes.
Same concept.
Absolutely. I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give is do it with a friend. Do it with somebody, do it with a friend. And not to say that person has to be, 100% in. They might be more tentative than you are right now, going on this journey, but having someone there and having a support system is number one to most things as social creatures. And I think, additionally, it's important to share what you're going through. And doing those blogging, doing the blog posts, communicating with people. And then also, we just had this wonderful discussion about creating these new rituals. This can exist. It doesn't have to be all or nothing beyond the program.
Right.
And I think in New Orleans too, at least for myself, it's really, obviously I do have wine tastings and events that I go throughout the week. But if I'm limiting myself to a Friday and Saturday night or once a month, those things seem a little bit more approachable once you've done something like this.
I think, like you said, the doing it with a friend, having that social support, if you're listening to this and you're like, shoot, I missed the deadline to sign up for Alcohol Free for 40 this year, so I'm not going to be in it till 2023. We have, just what Ethan was talking about, we have a Facebook group, an Alcohol Free for 40 Facebook group that has a ton of social support, camaraderie, people sharing ideas, kind of using it as an accountability checkpoint. And then Melanie has the Drink Fit Club that you can use that also for that social support. Thanks, y'all. This has been fantastic. I'm going to link to all of Melanie's past episodes too on this topic, because we have even more kind of strategies and specific drink ideas and just so much to share with y'all.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you, Molly. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you, Melanie.
I think y'all can understand just why I love Melanie and Ethan so much. The passion that they bring to any project, the energy, the humor. It has been an absolute blast to work with them on this book, on Craft, the Eat Fit Guide to Zero Proof Cocktails. It's been so much fun having the opportunity to do this with them, getting to know them better, getting to learn from their expertise. And we're just really excited about this product that we now have. And so again, you can see more details on it at the website is eatfitcookbook.com. You can use the pre-order code AFF40. It's alcohol free for 40. It's a special that we're doing for that promo, but you can use the code AFF40. Gives you 20% off, and it's pre-order. The book will be out this fall, but you'll also get a bonus digital recipe sent to you ahead of time. And if you're doing the Alcohol Free for 40 with us right now, I hope that this gave you some ideas, some things to kind of mix things up and inspire you to stay on track and help it feel a little bit easier. And if you're listening to this at some other time and you're doing your own alcohol-free journey, then just know that you've got tons of resources. If you scroll through this podcast, we have so many different aspects that we're talking about, from the health benefits to the science of alcohol in our mind and body, to more topics like this of really how to make zero proofing still fun, still delicious, still feel really satisfying. So anyway, lots for y'all. I always want to know what you think as you incorporate any of this into your own life. I always want to hear about it. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you would like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com, and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.